Today, folks, we're going to discuss what a chicken tractor on steroids is, and also the succession of these little guys in that chicken tractor on steroids. Okay, folks, a chicken tractor on steroids is basically a system developed by Jeff Lawton, the genius permaculture designer. Now, I may be the permaculture pimp daddy, but to me, Jeff Lawton is the pimp daddy of permaculture. So I think based on a couple of visits he had here in the United States, particularly at Vermont Compost, I believe that's where he developed the idea. He had taken the notion of raising chickens without store-bought feed, and he brought it back to Australia and devised a system in which what he did was layers. And he took those layers, they were laying eggs at least equal to the chickens that had food on demand, and in many ways it exceeded it. So folks, I invite you to go check out Jeff Lawton's version of the chicken tractor on steroids. And he had a series of steps that he went through to make it happen. We had done this with 100 birds. Each of them, we had different breeds just to see how well this worked in 3 different chicken tractors. Very different chicken tractor. One that was a totally different design. And we were raising layers, and we were getting about 100 eggs a day for free using this system. So then we developed it when we came out to North Carolina. Through all these years of practice of having done it, we said, okay, I wonder, and to give you the truth of it, for years and years I was wondering if anybody had ever done meat birds in that system. So to my knowledge, I guess we were the first to ever do it. If anybody else has, then I'm not aware of it. So we've adapted that system. We had to worry about a couple of things here. Number one, the extreme terrain. We couldn't use the typical chicken tractor that was used in the original system, in the one we had, even in the one Jeff Lawton had. And we had to basically get one that had a wider wheelbase and could stay secure in this extreme terrain where we have a lot of rolling hills and things like that. So we devised it, made a number of changes. And folks, that's why this video isn't in one video. There's so many nuanced things that they have to unfold over a period of time. It's not like we're trying to drag this out. It has to be this way because there's so much involved. Now, let me also point out that in this system, folks, if you're new to raising chickens, I do not at all advise you try this out of the gates. And if you're not very confident about making compost, I wouldn't advise it for you until you master that. Or at least get to where you're conversational in compost making. The reason why this system, in my judgment, is probably the most complex way to raise chickens and to have your compost turn out right. So A, you need to be at least quite confident in how you raise birds. And B, be quite confident in what your compost should look like. And we're going to try to walk you through that. So folks, if you go back and watch the videos we did on how to make an 18-day compost pile, that is going to be extremely helpful to you. And if you go back and watch the iteration we did on how to raise birds in this system the first time we did it, that's also going to be helpful to you. Because there are just so many nuanced things. Now, let's talk about what's going to happen today. This marks roughly the 5th week that the birds are in this system. 3 weeks in, we got them out of the brooder, out to the field, and we doubled up their net just to get them acquainted to being outside. And then the following week, we got them started with the chicken tractor on steroids with this compost cage. And we were still giving them a combination of their store-bought fermented food combined with their food scraps that I procure once a week. And there's a video on that. So in the following week, it was a combination of an induction system of them getting just acquainted with the system. And at the same time, I'm titrating down the dosage of their store-bought food while I'm increasing the amount of the food scraps they're getting. And now today marks the day where they go, I'm going to probably give them one last ration of their fermented food combined with the food scraps, and that's it. That's it. So now they have 5 weeks in, they've basically made the transition into the chicken tractor on steroids. And so what's going to happen today? And this is crucial. We're going to take this compost cage, we're going to break it down. We're going to move the chicken tractor about the distance of the width of that chicken tractor. Let's call it 10 feet. It's going to go 10 feet that way. We're going to reassemble this cage, take the bedding that's inside their chicken tractor, we're going to put that bedding down, and then we're going to put the food scraps along with a little bit of their fermented food on top. So what we've discovered in the last system is that it works much, much better if for the first 3 days when I do this, I layer their food. So what do I mean by that? Today it's going to consist nothing more of taking their bedding, putting it down in this reassembled compost cage, then I'm going to put the food scraps. Tomorrow, Monday, I'm going to put down some more carbon, and it can be any source you want. In our case, it's going to be wood chips. We're going to put down some more carbon, put down some more food scraps, let them out. We're going to do this all the way to Tuesday, possibly even Wednesday. Then they're good to go. Then through the end of the week until Sunday, again, we'll start the whole process over again. So from the time we assemble this until the time it's finished compost will be about a month. You can work with it a little bit longer if you like, but that's the case. So we're going to undo this, we're going to flip it. Chickens are going to work on it for a week, and we are not going to have to mess with this. All we're going to have to do is at the end of every day, we'll reassemble it. Now, folks, another little caveat. If you're one of those people that wants to just kind of put your chickens out there, feed them, and drive on, this is not the system to you. Just like with our management of all of our grazing animals, it's management intensive. It's not a simple set it up and walk away kind of system. It is very involved. So it does require that as well. But the beauty of this system is at the end of it, you get a lot of compost and a lot of meat. So with that said, we're going to get started. Cage has been reassembled. We took the wood chips from inside there, put them out here. Now, wood chips, super high carbon. And this is where having a little bit of experience with doing compost is going to be a really big help. But we know the solution. So like I said, in Jeff Lawton's system, you would take their bedding, put it down, put a bunch of cow manure on top, and then put their feed on top of it. Because we don't have a really good, clean source of cow manure right now, we've come up with different ways to do it without that. So we're going to layer it. But first out, in this particular case, because through experience, there's no other way to get it, I know that in order to break this stuff down, we're going to need a little bit more nitrogen out there. So I got this bag of coffee grounds. I'm going to start off with that. Doesn't have to be fancy. I got more of it. But now these guys are wondering what's going on. This is the first time they have not had their food in that old cage. So they're thinking, man, come on, dude, come out with it. So all we've done so far, these are some of the vines from the sweet potatoes we're about to harvest. We got folks coming over this afternoon, and I think they're going to help us do that. So we're going to take some of this. Michelle's harvested a few sweet potatoes just to kind of give you an illustration. But like I said, every single day I'll add another layer of carbon, add their food on top. So we're going to put this in there for now. These is the stems from the holy basil that Michelle has made tinctures and stuff out of. Video soon to come. So we'll put that in there. You can spread it out if you want. This is a bucket of the food scraps that I glean from in town once a week, right? So in this particular bucket, we have a bunch of green peppers with the seeds and stuff still in there. These guys are going to go nuts over that. We got a tortilla with some rice in there, bunch of skins from the onions. It doesn't even matter. As long as it's clean, it'll break down. So we'll put that in there. And then right now, these guys, this is the leftover. This little chicken was inside the bucket. This is the last of the, I had already fermented the food, And the chicken just was feet first all in this bucket, so we're going to put that in here. And this is the last they will get of that. So, it doesn't have to be fancy. It may look, now these guys have gotten the dinner bell. They know what's up. So these guys are going to eat all day in here. This is where they're going to do primarily most of their work. Now keep in mind, most of what they're getting out of this is their carbohydrates. See, they're on their way. Now, all of their protein they're going to get from the biota of the composting compost piles. So the beauty of this system, just the absolute beauty of it, is these guys are going to eat and then they're ultimately going to poop in here, adding more nitrogen, right? They're going to realize over the next couple of days, man, we need protein. And if you notice, most of what they got in here is carbohydrates. They're going to go back to that pile that we're about to flip. We're only going to flip it this once. We're going to go back to that pile. They're going to go back to that pile, and they're going to scratch. They're going to do the chickenness of the chicken, the beauty of this system. They're going to go through there, and that's where they're going to derive most of their protein. Now, also, we have underneath their chicken tractor, we have some kelp on demand. And what I'm discovering, at least from the last one, we still got the minerals there. They can get it whenever they want it, but they almost never touch it. It's like everything they need, they get out of the compost piles. It's really astonishing as this thing unfolds. So with that said, the only thing left to do, we're going to let these guys do their thing. They're going to eat their carbs. We're going to flip this pile, and they're going to become very, very interested in it. And they're going to do what chickens naturally do. They're going to scratch away. They're going to do all the stuff they need to get to the protein in that pile. All right, so everything is done. Everything's been assembled. And just so you know, this is about a cubic yard. It's a little less than I want it to be. Because this time around, remember last time we produced 7 cubic yards of compost. I'm realizing now with the way these birds move material that I can go somewhere in the neighborhood of 2 yards. We're going to push it as far as we can and try to see just how far these guys can go. So starting out of the gates, they're still little. This is roughly a cubic yard, but we're going to kick it up more and more and more and more. Now take note at the color of this pile. It's already, when we were breaking it down, the heat's already being generated. That's why the layering thing sort of helps, because it's carbon, nitrogen. That's the way it works. And it's going to help this thing get started. And also it's going to be of profound value when the weather gets cold and when it starts freezing at night. But we'll explain that as it unfolds. There's already a lot to digest here. Now, just so you know, for this particular pile, we use somewhere in the neighborhood of 25 to 30 gallons. And that's about right, but you're going to have at least some understanding of how compost works to know if your moisture's right. So, in terms of time, now I've timed myself in the past doing this with other chicken tractors, and roughly, if I'm doing it all by myself with no help whatsoever, it's about 45 minutes from start to finish. It's taking everything out. That's the whole kit and caboodle, 45 minutes. Now, if you don't have experience with this, or maybe your fitness level isn't where you want it to be, it's going to take you longer. But like I said, with experience and time, 45 minutes is what it takes me once a week to do this. Now, these guys are going to get interested, very, very interested in this as the day rolls on. As they exhaust their food in there, and as they say, hey, we want some more protein, they're going to start scratching this stuff out. And at the end of the day, when it's near time for them to go back in, we're just going to kind of bring it in and reassemble it. Not do much, just kind of pull the sides back in to where they scratch it out. And we'll do this for a week. But folks, stay tuned. I know like I said, this is a complex, of all the ways to raise chickens, this is probably the most complex. I don't know of any other that is more so. So in time, we'll keep you along. We'll explain it more and more in greater detail as we go along. And folks, if you want to see how we did it before, there's a playlist that William put together, I think, start to finish of how we did it last time. We're going to do the same thing, but do it even better. And if anybody's wondering why we got weird looking chicks in here, well, the layers that we're adding to our laying flock, they're also in here for now. And they'll make the transition into the other guys when the time's right. So, stay tuned. Leave your questions down below. We'll do the best we can to try to answer everything you have if you want to give this a shot. And if there are people out there that do want to give it a shot, by all means, chronicle your development. Let us know, because we can't really call it science until it's replicated, right? So until next time, this is Billy, the Permaculture Pimp Daddy, where PIMP stands for Permaculture is my passion, because it really is. We'll see you next time.